Good evening, folks, and welcome to the Horror Corner. I'm your host, Sean Patrick Erschen, and this week we are going to take a look back at a new classic. That's right, I tend to be a little old school with this channel. I realize that because I am old school, let's face it. But now and then I do go to see a new horror movie, and now and then I do enjoy one. And this is definitely one of those, and that is Stephen King's It. That's right, the remake of the 1990s television miniseries. And that particular series starred John Ritter and Tim Curry as Pennywise the Dancing Clown. In this film, Pennywise is played by Bill Skarsgard, and he does an absolutely brilliant job. Another thing I gotta say is I don't care about remakes. 90% of the time I don't enjoy them. I just think it's a quick cash grab. That's all they care about. Because if a movie was done right the first time, and if it's an absolute classic, why bother, other than to get money? And that's usually the case 90% of the time, but there are exceptions, and this is an exception. And plus, it was just a TV miniseries, so yeah, they didn't have the production value on a TV miniseries that they would a big cinematic movie like this. And that being said, there's just a lot of care put into this movie. They really cared about what they were doing, and it shows. And it's top-notch direction. It's incredibly well shot. The score is amazing. They really cared about this movie. They wanted to do real justice to Stephen King's novel. And they definitely did. It's fully accomplished here at Stephen King's It. So definitely have to see this movie. I love it. Highly recommend it. So the basic plot is we meet these two young boys in this suburban town. It could be any town, your town, my town, anywhere. It just happens to be Derry, Maine, which is where most of Stephen King's movies and novels take place, because that's where he grew up. So these two young boys are just your typical average young teenagers. And one of the boys is going out for a walk, and he's going to, because it's raining out, he wants to sail his little sailboat. So he goes outside in the pouring rain so he can sail his little sailboat around through the puddles. And what happens is he trips and falls, and the boat goes down into the sewer. Now when he goes to look down the sewer, that's when we meet Pennywise the Dancing Clown. We all float down here. Love that part. And Pennywise seems he looks pretty messed up and evil, but he comes across as being kind of charming, like your everyday clown from the circus, So when the boy asks him, well, why are you in the sewer? He's like, well, the circus drowned and got washed away, and that's how I ended up down here. and the boy does fall for that. He's like, so Georgie, don't you want your boat back? And so when the kid goes to reach for it, he pulls him in, and that's the last we see of the young boy. So the movie becomes about his brother, Billy, who is he kind of has a speech impediment, but other than that, he's just your normal, typical, average, everyday teenager who's got a bunch of typical teenager friends, and they're all a bunch of nerds, and they call the Loser Squad, or the Losers Club, actually. But I just love the camaraderie between the teenagers. It totally reminds me of my childhood as a teenager growing up in the 80s. I was a little bit before that, but still, it's the same idea. And I feel they really nail it. They really hit the 80s feel on the head. They get it right. They nail just about every aspect of it. down to the clothes, every little detail, the clothes, the hairstyles, the cars, even the bicycles. I had that little bicycle with the long seat with the metal rim on the back. I had that bike, and my mother had that Pinto car that the other kid's mother has. Biggest piece of crap ever made. The Pinto. I had to laugh at that. It's so funny. But yeah, they get every aspect of it right. The camaraderie between the kids, the chemistry they have, that idea that they go places they're not supposed to go. They do a lot of things they're not really supposed to do, because that's what you do when you're a kid. You're an explorer. That's exactly what I did as a kid. I was a total nerd. I was a geek. I was small, just like they are. So I can really relate to it. And it brings back so many memories. I know they try to do it with shows like Stranger Things, where they try to get the 80s feel and the nostalgia. But I don't feel they quite get it as well as they do in this movie. This movie actually feels like you're in the 80s, like you're back in the 80s as a kid. And they got the music right. Everything about it they get right, except one little thing, and that is the bullies. I feel like the bullies are way over the top, you know. That is not your typical bully. Your typical bully is not gonna carve a name into a kid's chest and beat the living shit out of him for no reason. There's one scene where there's a whole circle of guys kicking the crap out of this kid for no reason whatsoever. That's not your typical bully. A typical bully might harass you, call you names, maybe give you an atomic wedgie now and then. Maybe push you around, but they're not gonna beat the living shit out of you for no reason. So that's just one aspect that kind of, you know, it's strictly for entertainment's sakes, and I get that, you know. But that is not your typical bully. And let's say another thing about this movie is that it's absolutely terrifying. I was shocked at how scary it was. This is a lot scarier than your typical Stephen King movie. And there are a lot of jump scares, but they're actually earned, you know what I'm saying? And what I mean by that is the suspenseful build-up to the payoff of the jump scare. It's not just Pennywise jumping out of nowhere, you know. And it's not earned. This is earned with the suspenseful build-up, the beautiful score that they use in the film, the tension that you can just cut it with a knife. It does an excellent job at that. And then when it happens, you really will jump, you know. It's not just throwing jumps here and there, and it's just a piece of crap movie that's hidden behind all the jump scares. This movie is earned in every way. And as I said, Pennywise has got real depth in this movie as opposed to Tim Curry's performance in the original TV miniseries, which he was also great, but it's a different kind of Pennywise. This one is almost like a comparison would be 1988's Batman's Joker played by Jack Nicholson as opposed to Heath Ledger's Joker in The Dark Knight. Both were great, but it's kind of different. There's more depth to this Pennywise. You see, he was really scarred in his life, you know. Something really bad happened to him, and he's taking it out on these young kids and terrorizing them. Obviously, there's more to him than that. He's a supernatural clown. He's got powers, and, you know, it's almost like Freddy Krueger in a way. He has supernatural powers. He can turn into anything. And he just absolutely terrifies the kids, and he terrifies you, the viewer. There's one awesome scene where he's hidden behind these bunch of balloons, and there's one balloon right in front of his head, and he slowly lifts up all the balloons, and you see his evil face. It's awesome. And it says, "We all float down here." And what he means by that is in the sewer, where he takes his children, again, like Freddy Krueger in a way, and once they like die, they're in limbo, kind of floating around the sewer. It's really weird, but it's cool. But just an absolutely awesome movie. I love it. It's one of the best remakes ever, in my opinion. It's thrilling. It's got great casting. Everyone in the movie is just at top-notch level. So the performances are great all around. The look of the movie is fantastic. The cinematography is brilliant. And I have to say that opening scene is maybe one of the scariest scenes in horror history. Just the way it was shot, it's brilliant with the rain coming down. It's dark out. It's cloudy. And just the tension in that scene, and it's so scary. And Bill Skarsgard's performance as Pennywise just nails it on the head. It's just brilliant. I love it. It's so scary. So can't say enough about It, the new It, Stephen King's It from 2017. Run and buy it now on Blu-ray or DVD. Anything you have to do, you must see this movie. It's excellent, and I feel it's a new classic. And I'm going to watch it for years to come. And thank you for joining me, folks, in the horror corner. Tune in and stay scared.